vital resources within their community. As a parent of a child with disabilities, Kelly is passionate about helping her daughter to become a confident self-advocate as she pursues her goals of working and living independently in the community. As the Outreach and Communications Manager for Maryland ABLE, Kelly is delighted to have the opportunity to connect with many people with disabilities, their families, and the staff that support them as she travels throughout the state of Maryland, educating people about the benefits of having an ABLE account. Through her outreach endeavors, Kelly is excited to see how her work with Maryland ABLE is helping to promote personal choice, independence, and economic stability for people with disabilities. And I told Kelly today that I got an email and I saw that Maryland ABLE was celebrating their 5-year anniversary. So, okay, congratulations. So I think we're going to get to learn about what has happened over the last 5 years and all the people who have benefited from this program. So without further ado, I will turn this over to Kelly. Unless, Brooke, did you want to say anything?
No, just welcome everyone. Thank you for coming.
Well, thank you so much, Joy and Brooke. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. I truly mean it when I tell you I've been looking forward to this all week. It is the highlight of my job, is to being able to connect with families and self-advocates. It's my favorite part of the job. And, in addition to working with Maryland ABLE, I also am a parent of an 18-year-old daughter who has an ABLE account of her own. And I like to share this just because, it's given me an opportunity to develop some practical real life experience with ABLE accounts, in addition to just having the knowledge of the program. And it's really given me an opportunity over the last, I guess it's been 3.5 years that Lily has had her account. I have been serving, I should say, as the authorized legal representative on her ABLE account. So it's given me this opportunity to really see how Lily has grown in her, independence, taught her some very good financial literacy skills. And it's also given her father and I a way to begin that process of planning and preparing for her future, which will likely be a time on this, sometime in the future where she'll be here and we're not. I hope that we are both, that all of us on this call are here for decades to come. But, as a parent raising a child or an adult with a disability, we always have that also in our planning process. So hopefully I can share a little bit about my experiences with my daughter to give you some practical experiences. Since we have, a group of people that I have not had the opportunity of meeting personally yet, I don't know if any of you are ABLE account owners at this point, or you have someone that has an ABLE account, or you're serving as the representative, or maybe you're just here for the very first time hearing about ABLE. So because of that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the entire summary of the ABLE program, the federal legislation that makes it possible, and the criteria and eligibility requirements, all that good stuff. And then we're going to talk more specifically about Maryland ABLE and the account management, the benefits, and this particular features. So that's my plan for tonight. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move through the presentation and stop at certain transition points. So if you're getting something pops into your mind while I'm talking, go ahead and put it in the chat box, and then I will let Joy know when we're going to stop and take a couple of questions. And if the question that you've asked is something that I'm going to cover later in the presentation, I'll just let you know that. So let's go ahead and get started. We do have so much information to cover, and I'm excited to share it with you. Let's take a look at, pardon me, what ABLE accounts are. And basically, an ABLE account is a way for people with disabilities and their family members to be able to save money without jeopardizing those critical state and federal means tested benefits. That is going to be things such as SSI and Medicaid and any Medicaid waivers like food, energy, and housing assistance. So for decades, people with disabilities who have qualified for SSI cash benefits have had this, it's sort of a blessing and a curse in some ways. The good news is when you qualify for SSI cash benefits, you automatically qualify for Medicaid, which is going to be your insurance and other important waivers that we, the food, energy, and housing assistance, things like that. The problem has been you cannot have more than $2,000 in assets in your name if you're receiving SSI. So this created a problem for parents that are trying to plan and prepare for the future. But more importantly, it's almost created a cycle of poverty for people with disabilities. You have these wonderful and very valuable and critical benefits, but you can only have that $2,000 asset limit. So it really made it hard. People were having to spend down their benefit money just so they don't exceed that $2,000 so that they don't lose their benefits. So that is one of the main reasons why ABLE accounts were created in the first place. And it all started with one parent, Stephen Beck Jr., who had 2 children, and one of them had a disability, and he was very frustrated that he couldn't save for her future the way he was saving in for his other daughter in a 529 college savings account. So he began this process of just advocating and just, many people joined the movement. And after many years, President Obama, back in 2014, he signed into law the Stephen A. Beck Jr. Achieving a Better Life Experience. That's where we get the acronym for ABLE. So that was the better known as the ABLE Act. And when this passed, it gave states across the country the opportunity to open up ABLE programs, which made it possible for them to have ABLE accounts. And instead of just being able to have $2,000 in a regular checking or savings account or $2,000 in assets in general, this legislation made it possible for people with disabilities to have up to $100,000 in an ABLE account. So what a game changer, right? We went from having to monitor that savings or checking account not to exceed $2,000, or you would lose the SSI benefits as well as the Medicaid. But now with an ABLE account, thanks to this legislation, it was possible to save up to $100,000. So that was a pretty landmark legislation for people with disabilities. I do like to point out that when this was passed, our regulations were put into the Internal Revenue Code, Section 529A. And you're probably thinking, oh, not at this time of night. We're not going to be talking about IRS codes. You're going to bore me to death. But I do like to let you know that that's where our regulations are found. Because a lot of people, they think, it must be part of Social Security law or it's part of Medicaid law. But actually, we are part of the Federal Registry and the Internal Revenue Code, Section 529A. And some of you may be familiar with 529 accounts, and that's the college savings account, folks. So we are sisters, if you will, within the Internal Revenue Code. And I also tell you that because as we move through some of the information tonight, you're going to see where there's this tie-in to IRS rules and regulations. So here in Maryland, Governor Hogan signed our law into effect in 2016, and we were able to launch our program in 2017. And we indeed, as Joyce mentioned, are celebrating our 5th anniversary on November 28th. So it's been a wonderful, I have wonderful news to report for that. We actually have a little over 5,000 Maryland ABLE account owners, which is great. And we have, I just looked at the numbers today. Together, they have collectively been able to save or invest up to $54 million. Now, this was money at one point they would not be able to have in their name because they couldn't exceed that $2,000. So we're really excited for all of those ABLE account holders that are doing that. All right, so that's a little about the history. Let's look at some of the main reasons why people are interested in opening ABLE accounts. The first one is one I already mentioned. It increases that savings limit before those SSI cash benefits are impacted. So those who were just, using a regular checking or savings account. They could not go beyond that $2,000 asset limit imposed by Social Security. If they did, they would lose their Medicaid insurance and waivers, and they would be giving a short amount of time to spend that money down. And if they didn't, then they would lose Social Security cash benefits as well and have to reapply. If anyone's ever been through that process, you will know that you don't want to have to do this again, because it's a lot of work and it can be frustrating as well. The second is that not only does it, protect those SSI cash benefits, but those really important waivers like the food, energy, and housing assistance, they're so hard to come by. So again, we don't want to drop off of those waiver services and have to reapply. The other reason is that you pay no federal or state taxes on earnings while the funds are in the ABLE account, and not when you take them out either. As long as you're using those funds for the beneficiary, that's the person with the disability, on anything that supports them in their health, independence, or quality of life, or what we like to call QDEs, qualified disability expenses. And I'm going to talk much more about this in just a little bit. The other reason is that you have access to a Maryland state income tax deduction up to $2,500 per contributor per ABLE account. So for those of us who are parents and we're trying to plan and prepare for the future, money that we're putting into the ABLE account, we're able to get an income deduction on our Maryland state taxes. If you're putting money into an ABLE account and you're utilizing it throughout the year to pay for expenses that are related to raising your child, things that you were going to do anyway, you also can put the money into an ABLE account, take that income deduction, and still be able to just pay for all those expenses. So it's really a nice a way for people to be able to pay for those additional costs of raising a family member with a disability. The other reason is that ABLE accounts are set up online and they're intended to be very easy to access and manage because they are online accounts, and therefore you have easy access to funds. So those are some of the main reasons. Let's talk a little bit about the eligibility criteria, and then we're going to take a little pause for questions. So in order to qualify for an ABLE account, you have to meet two criteria. And the first is that you have to have the onset of a disability prior to the age of 26. So let me stop right here and clear up some myths. People hear that age 26 and they think, oh, so I have to wait until my family member is 26 years old to open an ABLE account, or, oh, darn it, I missed the, my son is 30 and now I can't have one because I didn't open it before 26. And both of those are incorrect. As long as the person has a disability prior to their 26th birthday, that's the first criteria. And the second is that when you have a disability, it has to meet the Social Security Administration's definition of a disability. So they range from things from intellectual disabilities to neurological disabilities, to deaf, blindness, there's a mental health diagnosis. As long as the disability meets the Social Security Administration's definition of a disability, that's fine. So the other myth that we have is that people think that they have to currently be receiving SSI benefits to qualify for an ABLE account. And that's not true at all, because we find that a lot of our family members that are under the age of 18 who have a disability, they may not qualify for SSI under the age of 18, because if you were to apply for it, they look at the entire family's income, and that usually puts them above that threshold for being able to receive those monthly SSI cash benefits. However, once the person turns 18, they're going to look at just that one individual's income, and it's going to be obviously much lower than the household income, and it may not even be anything at that point. So that's when we find that they usually qualify for SSI benefits. And we want to take a look at also who owns and manages the ABLE account. The answer to ownership is always going to be the person with the disability. They are both the owner and the beneficiary of the ABLE account. So we have lots of folks who have ABLE accounts who are able to manage their own account. They do it independently, and that's fantastic. We also have a good portion of our ABLE account holders who are not able to manage this financial account on their own, and they need assistance. So for someone that's under the age of 18, you have to put a family member who's an adult that's going to help manage that account, because minors can't have a bank account of their own without having an adult on it. But if you're opening an account for someone that's over the age of 18, you have to provide consent from that person who says, yes, I would like for someone to help me manage this account. This consent could be in the form of a power of attorney, or sometimes parents have guardianship of an adult child and an adult family member. They have guardianship. If neither one of those things exists for you and you have someone over the age of 18, you can go onto our website at marylandable.org. And at the bottom of our website, there's a section called forms. This is where you're going to find all the forms that I'm going to talk about today. But you could download a form called a limited power of attorney over the ABLE account only. You don't have to have this drawn up by an attorney. It was already developed by the Assistant Attorney General for Maryland, who created this for families who would, can go to the bank, have this form notarized in the presence of the notary and two witnesses. So the account holder will sign it, the person serving as ALR, and this is going to give them the opportunity to serve as what we call the authorized legal representative. Okay, so I know I've shared a lot. I'm going to take a little pause here, take a sip of water, and let's see if Joy has any questions for me in the chat box.
So I think Joy, we lost Joy here for a little bit. She just texted me. She's trying to come back. So I will go ahead. And I think that most of the questions have been answered as we've been going on, either between myself or Joy. But one question, do you have to have a limited amount of money to in an ABLE account? Like, what's the least amount of money, I think is what this person is saying.
Okay, so yeah, in order to open an ABLE account, the minimum deposit is $25. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as well in just a few more slides down the road, but that's the minimum amount.
The other question is about, where is it that you set up these accounts? Is it at a bank? Is it, so that's kind of another question.
Great question. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit also, but I will just let you know that ABLE accounts are online bank accounts that you are going to link to your existing bank account of your choice, a checking account, a savings account, and you just set it up online through our website. So there is no brick and mortar building of ABLE. So you're going to link this existing account that you have with an ABLE account. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a few more slides. I do want to mention one other thing about who can manage an account. So right now, under our current regulations, we do have to have those consent from the account owner or beneficiary, the person with the disability. But we have had a change in our regulations, whereas they've made a change so that in the future, a person who needs to have someone help them manage their own ABLE account, and they don't have guardianship papers and they don't have a power of attorney, if someone is a family member, a parent, a spouse, a sibling, or is a rep payee for their SSI benefits, they will not be required to have a power of attorney in the future. Maryland is in the process of implementing this hierarchy, but we have to have a change in state statute, because here in Maryland, our law says once a child reaches the age of majority, and that means they turn 18 and become an adult, they manage their own accounts. And if they don't, they do have to provide consent for someone to help them do so. So we're in the process of seeking support from our legislation legislators to change it so that we can go into compliance with the federal regs, which allows for that hierarchy to be adopted. Okay.
I think that was it for the questions so far, at least in the chat.
Okay, great. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at, oops, did I just skip over a slide here? Let me go back here. Oh. Okay, I don't know why I'm going just farther and farther away from where I want to be. Oh, goodness. Okay. Well, there's more than one way to get back to where I want to go. Or maybe not. Sorry about this, guys. Here we go. Okay, so let's take a look at some things that you want to keep in mind regarding contributions to an ABLE account. And that first question that we had was a great one. How much do you have to put in the ABLE account? What's the minimum amount? And that's an initial deposit of $25. This is not a fee. It is the initial deposit into the account. After that point, now that's not to say that you can only put $25 in to fund your account. You can put in whatever you want. But that's the minimum amount. So once you've made that initial deposit and your account is funded, it's up to you or to the account owner when they want to make future contributions. And they can do that once a week, once a month, once a year. It just is totally up to you. As long as those other additional contributions are a minimum of $10. You can set up monthly contributions if you want to, or you can just do it whenever you want. There is an annual standard contribution limit for an ABLE account, and this is important information because you can deposit money or make contributions to your ABLE account whenever you want, but there is a limit on how much money you can receive in the account in any calendar year. So this year, our annual contribution limit is $16,000. And this is one of those areas where you see our tie-in to the Internal Revenue Code. So this amount is set by the federal gift tax exclusion law. And this is something that pertains to anyone that says, hey, you can give a gift to someone up to, in this case, $16,000 and not have to pay taxes on it. So the IRS does change this amount from time to time. When we launched our program, it was at $14,000. And then over the years, they have increased it. And effective January the 1st, we will have a $17,000 standard annual contribution limit. So that's good news for us. Every time they change that rule, gift tax exclusion law, our annual contribution limit increases with that as well. So this is one of the areas when we think about $16,000, some of you may be going, so if I'm using my ABLE account as an investment account or a future needs planning account, this is going to be a challenge because if I wanted to leave an inheritance to my family member in their ABLE account, my assets are going to be more than $16,000, or my life insurance policy is going to be more than $16,000. What do I do in a situation like that? And this is where we see a need for multiple planning tools. So there's only two ways that you can protect a person's benefits. And the first one is a special needs trust, where you can put in however much money you want. You can put in $10 or you can put in $10 million in a special needs trust. There's no limit on that. The second way to do it is through an ABLE account. So with ABLE, having that limitation of $16,000 a year, sometimes we see families who use multiple planning tools. And we'll talk a little bit more about this as we move through the presentation. So now that I've mentioned that $16,000 limit, I'm going to turn around and tell you the exception to the rule. And that is that if you have a family member who has an ABLE account and is also working, they could qualify for ABLE to work contributions. So that $16,000 limit is the amount of money that anyone can put into an ABLE account. Anyone meaning family, friends, money from different sources. But if a person is working and is employed, they can put in additional money into the ABLE account up to $12,880 additional. So the way that works, and let me just pop over to this slide real quick. Able to work contributions work like this. If you have a family member who's working and they make $5,000 a year working at a part-time job, they could put in an additional $5,000. So if you or other people wanted to put in money and put it towards that $16,000 limit, and you have someone that's working, they can put in that $5,000. So they could have $21,000 contributed for this calendar year. So a couple years go by, your family member gets a full-time job and a raise. Let's just say they're making $20,000 right now, or $30,000. They would still be limited to $12,880 for this calendar year. And this amount does change again of every year. This is going to be limited. This actually is equal to the poverty level wage for a single person household. So every time the feds change this amount, it's going to impact our able to work contributions as well. I do love to share about able to work, because out of our over 5,000 able account holders, we have I think it's about 400 account holders contributing to able to work, and together they have saved $2.2 million of their own money. So that's amazing to me. And as a parent of a child who is going to be transitioning out of school in the next couple of years, I'm really hopeful that she's going to be able to find a job. And it just encourages me to know that there's these people that are working, saving their own money. And at one time they were told, don't work, you can't save your money. And here they are. So I think that's pretty fantastic. The next thing you want to keep in mind is the $100,000 able account balance, because this is the account balance that you can have. If you were to exceed $100,000, what would happen is the person's SSI cash benefits would be put into a state of suspension, but their Medicaid and any waivers would remain in place. Okay, so this is different from someone who has a regular checking or savings account and they exceed that $2,000 limit. What would happen is you would immediately lose the Medicaid and your waivers, and you would have a certain amount of time to spend down your money. And if you didn't, you would become disenrolled from the SSI cash benefits. So it's very different outcome for people who have an able account. Now, if you did have an able account with a balance that exceeded the $100,000, and you were to spend that some of the money and you would go below the $100,000 balance, what would happen is Social Security could automatically reactivate those monthly cash benefits because you were not disenrolled from Social Security. Your SSI cash benefits were in a state of suspension. And the final number I want you to keep in mind is a $500,000 account balance, after which point we could no longer accept contributions. It could continue to grow from interest or dividends, but we wouldn't be able to accept additional contributions after $500,000 until money was spent down, and then we could take additional contributions again. So there's a lot of numbers in here, a lot of different facts. Let's stop here and make sure we have a good grasp on these limits and things.
Can I ask a question, Kelly?
Yeah.
Does the money that's in these accounts, does it earn like interest like it would if it were in a bank account?
It does. It does. And it's tax-free earnings. And that's a wonderful thing. You don't pay federal or state taxes on the earnings on the money in the able account. And you have choices as to where your money is kept within the able account. It could be a savings, cash savings option, or it could be one of our investments. And I'll share some more about that too in a little bit.
There's a question that just popped up that
Okay.
I think you should look at right now while we're on this slide. Someone said, if I'm confused, if at 100,000 you are suspended, I don't understand how you could get to the $500,000 amount.
Okay. Well, so an example of this would be for someone who is receiving benefits. And I actually talked to an account holder this happened to. She is blind and she was receiving SSI cash benefits. and she started a business, and it really took off. It was an online business, and she was earning more than she could earn for Social Security. And she said, you know, I would rather continue operating this successful business and not have my SSI benefits. So if she wants to go beyond 100,000, she could do that. I'm not saying she would go up to $500,000, but she could, because to her, it didn't matter that she wouldn't be receiving those monthly SSI cash benefits because she was earning money from her business, but she was still able to maintain her Medicaid, which was the insurance, and other waivers that she had, because that remains in place. So the reason we have to throw that $500,000 in there is because since we are sisters in the law with the 529 college savings folks, that's their account balance limit. So because we're sort of tied in the law together, we have to limit our account balance up to that amount. I know it gets a little confusing, but so most people would not, if they didn't want to have their SSI cash benefits suspended, then they would monitor the account not to go over 100,000. They would spend some of it down.
Thank you. Jim, I hope that answered your question. If it didn't, let us know and we'll follow up.
And speaking of 529, we also have the Able Financial Planning Act that is in effect until 2025, actually December 31st of 2025. And what this does is it makes it available for anyone who opened a college savings plan for their child at birth, or another, grandparents or family or whatever, open an account, and they are not sure that their child's going to be utilizing that money for college or a traditional college pathway. So they can roll money over from a 529 account into an ABLE account. And the nice thing about that is, they can still use that money to pay for education, community college, four-year college if they want, room and board, if that's how it went, they could do all that. But they're also able to now use that money for anything that supports their family member in health, independence, or quality of life. So when you do a rollover from a 529 account, you would have to remember that you're still limited to that $16,000 a year contribution limit. So if grandma had opened a 529 college savings account when your family member was young and has $20,000 in it right now, grandma could roll over 16 this year and 4,000 next year. Okay. All right. So Joy, you had asked about does ABLE funds, do they accrue interest? And we talked a little bit about having a choice. And this is a lot of information. So especially for those of you that are new to ABLE, I don't want you to get into the weeds on this, but I want you to walk away from the presentation tonight knowing that you do have choices as to where you decide to either save or invest your money. Okay, so think of it this way. Maryland ABLE is facilitated by the state of Maryland, but we're not a bank. We can't make financial transactions. So we had to partner with a financial institution. And our partner is the Bank of New York Mellon. So when people make contributions to their ABLE account, that's where the funds are actually held, in the Bank of New York Mellon. And you could choose to keep it in the cash savings option there at the Bank of New York Mellon. And they receive, I'm sorry, people that chose the cash option, they will receive whatever the federal interest rate is paying, that's what it's going to be based on. So whatever it is, that's what it is. The other choice is that people could choose one of our 4 investment options, which are actually portfolios that are managed by Vanguard. We've partnered with Vanguard, and they've made available 4 different portfolio options. The first one is a conservative one where 80% of the mutual fund is in stocks and 20% is in I'm sorry, I just said that backwards. 80% is in bonds and 20% is in the stock market. So it's got a little bit of volatility there with the stocks, some risk, but 80% of it is in bonds, which tends to be more stable. We have a moderate portfolio option that's a 50-50 split between stocks and bonds. We have an aggressive option that is 84% in stocks and 16% in bonds. And then we have a fixed income, which is 100% in bonds. So there's a different portfolio option for people that have different risk levels. Some people say, hey, I'm putting my money into my ABLE account and I want to know that if I need it next week, it's there. I don't want to worry about the stock market falling. I want to know that that money is there. The cash savings option for them is the best choice for them, and that's great. Other people say, I'm opening my ABLE account when my child is very young. I plan on, not accessing funds that often until much later in life. So I want to go with one of the investment options. I've got time on my side and I'm going to go with one of those. So there really is no right or wrong answer. It's just whatever you prefer. And just to let you know, to take some of the pressure off, because some of you are thinking, oh my gosh, now I got to decide, like, do I want the cash option? Do I want the investment option? Oh, that's a lot, that's more for me to think about. The good news is every time you make a contribution to the ABLE account, you can choose where it goes. So you can start with a contribution to the cash. The next time you want to put money in, you may decide that you want to put some in the fixed income or the moderate, whatever one of the investment choices you want. You have that opportunity to make that choice. So there's no pressure with that. If you do choose one of our investment options, there is an asset-based fee with that purchase. So Vanguard does charge a small percentage of the transaction to cover those fees, to cover that transaction. So if you want to know the exact portfolio mix, what stocks, what bonds, all that good stuff, it's all available on our website under the program disclosure book. It'll tell you about each and every portfolio as well as those asset-based fees. Okay. Any questions about the investments versus cash savings?
There are two questions. So there's a question as to how many contributors can deposit into an account per year. Can multiple people deposit $16,000, or is the total that can be in the account 16,000? That's one question.
Great. That's an excellent question. I'll do that one first. And we're actually at that point in the slide deck where we talk about who can contribute to an ABLE account. And the good news is anybody can contribute to your family member's ABLE account. It could be you, it could be your family member, him or herself, it could be friends, it could come from back payments from SSI or DDA, it could come from small inheritances under 16,000, small settlements, employment funds, unemployment funds, economic stimulus payments. Anybody can contribute, but there is a maximum contribution limit for each account, and that is $16,000. So everyone has to stay within that one contribution limit of 16,000.
Okay. And the other question was, if someone opened an account this week in 2022, the maximum would be 16,000, but then come January, they could deposit another 16,000.
Yes, and January 1, it'll go up to 17. So a lot of people right now, this is one of our busiest times of year for people making contributions. They want to take advantage of those income deductions on their Maryland state taxes, and they want to max out the contribution limit. So yes, this is a time of year where people are checking their ABLE account. How much have I put in? How much wiggle room do I have? Let me put that other amount in. So
What is doing there, Mom?
every calendar year. Yeah. All right. So that's a little bit about the contributions. And Joy, did we have another question in the box about?
There was one more question. Someone said, can I roll rollover money from a 529 from an older child to an able account for a younger child.
Yes, as long as it's a family member, the beneficiary is a family member. So a sibling, yeah. Mhm. Yep.
Yeah.
And you'd have to initiate that rollover. First, you'd have to have the able account. If you don't already have an able account, you'd want to establish the account, because you can't roll that over until the account is established. So, yeah. Let's take a look at how we can use the money that's in the able account. The way it's set up is the IRS says you can use the funds for anything that supports the account beneficiary in his or her health, independence, or quality of life. So this is a very broad definition. And it can get a little confusing for some folks. So the IRS did give us a list of some categories. They're not intended to be all inclusive, but more so to kind of give everybody an idea of what that would look like. So when we're looking at health, prevention, and wellness, these are going to be your prescriptions, your doctor copays, things like that. But then, think in terms of wellness, which is overall wellness. It could be yoga classes. It could be a gym membership, right? Anything at all that's going to support your family member in their health. With housing, people are able to pay for rent or mortgage with an able account. This is the one area that the IRS is very specific about. And they say if you're going to withdraw money from the able account, you're going to withdraw money for rent or mortgage, you have to use that money within the month that it was withdrawn. Okay. With education, this could be tutoring in school, but it could also be non-credit courses at a college, full credit, in matriculated coursework at college, anything you want, anything to do with education, but it could be tutoring and books. A lot of things apply to education. Employment training and support, if someone needs a job coach and they've gone beyond their hours for what a job coach is provided and they need somebody to help them, they could use it for that. Transportation can be things like buses, planes, trains, Ubers, automobiles. Okay. Basic living expenses is going to be your food, your utility bills, groceries, things like that, clothing. Assistive technology, these are things like screen readers and computers, but it can also be a cell phone and purchasing the phone itself and your monthly service. This is one of the areas that we have utilized the able account for our daughter, just because I want her to begin learn. She's 18. I want her to begin learning about this thing called life expenses. That phone that you're talking on, that you like to text on, it's not free. We have to buy it and we have to pay for it every month. So, it's a very abstract concept to her. But when she sees that the money is coming out of her able account and, it's starting to help her to understand that these are monthly expenses that we pay. So that's one area. As we go on through here, I won't go through all of them, but as you can see, professional services, if you need someone to help with financial advising, tax preparation, legal fees, things like that, you can use that. And these are just a few. One of the biggest questions that I get is, can I use my able fund to pay for a vacation? And I would turn that back over to you guys and I'd say, let's take a look at that criteria that the IRS has stipulated. And they say that funds can be used for anything that supports a person in their health, independence, or quality of life. So do I have any brave person that would like to take a guess at how to answer that question? Would a vacation be a qualified disability expense based on that criteria? Joy, you want to try?
I think I would say no, but I might be wrong.
Okay. So
I don't know. Is that a basic living expense? I don't know.
Well, if I were answering that question, for my daughter, I would say that a vacation is a qualified disability expense because it supported her. Vacations support us in our health, our mental health, our physical health, sometimes depending upon what we're doing, but it's also a quality of life issue, right? It's a quality of life. Just because you have a disability doesn't mean you don't need a break, that you don't need to have vacations to enhance our quality of life. And if any of you have ever attended any of one of my workshops or webinars before, you've probably heard me talk about Lily's goal in life was to go to Disney one day. I mean, oh my goodness, that's what I heard forever and ever and ever. And she wanted to go so badly. So she started asking her family and friends that normally buy her gifts around the holidays and her birthday to make contributions to her ABLE account because she wanted to go to Disney. Well, I am happy to report at long last, we took that child to Disney and we were able to use Lily's ABLE account to pay for her airfare, her tickets to the park. Okay. We weren't able to pay for mom and dad's trip to Disney, but we were able to pay for Lily's portion of the trip. So, the answer the way I would say is yes. And the reason I say that is because whoever is serving as the person managing this ABLE account is going to have to determine what is a qualified disability expense for that person. So you don't have to submit your receipts to Maryland ABLE. You don't have to call or email us and say, is this or not, or is it one, is it not a qualified disability expense? The only person that's going to ask you or may ever ask you to what you're spending the money on would be the IRS in the event of an audit. So again, here's where we see that tie in with the IRS. If you were ever pulled for an audit, not because you have an ABLE account, but just because you're really lucky and you get audited, the IRS is going to want to know two things. This is a tax-advantaged savings account intended only for the person with a disability. So the first thing they're going to want you to verify is, A, this person qualifies for an ABLE account. They had a disability that started before age 26. Let them know that, check, that's good. The next thing they're going to want to know is, how have you been spending this money? They want to make sure that this money is being spent on the person with the disability for their health, their independence, or quality of life. And it would really be up to you to be able to, defend, if asked, how let's say a vacation. Kelly, how did this Disney trip, how is this a QDE? And I'd say this was one of her life goals. We taught her financial literacy skills by saving for her trip. It was a great experience for her mental and physical health. She got great exercise swimming in that pool and walking around that park, just about putting her dad and I, her old parents, over the edge, all that walking around the point. But boy, she had some really good health benefits from it. And most of all, it was a quality of life. She benefited from that. So that's why I would feel comfortable justifying that as a QDE. That's why we suggest you just maintain your receipts. In the event of an audit, you'd want to be able to just let them know, show them how these funds were being spent. Any questions about QDEs?
There is one question. If people use their the money from their ABLE account to pay for basic living expenses like the phone bill or transportation, do you get checks? Like, would you write a check to pay for a bill?
Okay, great. Very good question. So remember, we talked about ABLE being an online bank account that we're going to link to an existing account. So this is how we're going to how we'll get money into the ABLE account, and also how we would take money out to pay for things like a cell phone bill or utilities. Okay. So you're going to link the ABLE account with an existing bank account of your choice, whichever makes most sense to you. So let me give you my own personal example. When I opened my daughter's ABLE account, she didn't have a checking account. She didn't have a job. She doesn't have any benefits. We're her parents. We're going to be providing everything for her. So we linked her ABLE account to our checking account because we're putting money into her account and we're taking withdrawals from the ABLE account to pay for qualified disability expenses. One day, I hope that Lily does receive SSI benefits, and when she does, or when she gets a job, she'll have her own account, and we could link her ABLE account. I'll just log into the account and link her checking or savings account to her ABLE account. So that's one way. For example, let's just say I wanted to pay for summer camp for Lily, and I could go onto the summer camp website, register her, and then it'll ask me for payment of $250. I could put in my credit card, and at the end of the month, when my statement comes in, I could go into Lily's ABLE account, transfer that $250 out of her ABLE account back into my linked checking account, and I'm going to pay my credit card bill. I would just keep the receipt, the registration receipt from the camp or whatever, and that would support my document, would be my supporting documentation that that $250 was withdrawn for her summer camp. Okay. The other way that can be done is you could use our prepaid card option. And the reason I say option is that it doesn't automatically come with an ABLE account, but you would have to opt into it. And this is an additional fee of $1.25 for the month, but it is a very convenient way to access funds in the ABLE account. And the way it works is you would request an ABLE prepaid card. It looks like a regular Visa. You can use it online or in the community, but it's not a line of credit like a regular Visa would be, but rather you load funds from the ABLE account onto the prepaid card. And then, you can use it wherever Visa cards are accepted. And this way, let's go back to that example when I was registering my daughter for her summer camp, $250, right? I could put my own credit card number in at the registration page, and at the end of the month, transfer the money from the ABLE account to my checking, and then pay the credit card bill with my checking account. Or I could register Lily for the summer camp and then put her ABLE prepaid card number in there, and then it automatically comes off of the ABLE funds. So that's the second way of doing that. For folks who are only planning on using the ABLE account as a long-term savings and investment option, and they don't really plan on accessing funds that often, you may not need an ABLE prepaid card. It doesn't seem worth $15 in fees for the year if you're only going to use the card once or twice. But for someone who uses it ongoing, the most convenient way is the prepaid card. And this is also a really good financial literacy tool to help teach our family members about spending, making personal choices in the community, giving them empowering them to go up to the register to pay for things with their swiping their card, as opposed to counting out the money and getting the right change back. There's other benefits of the prepaid card as well. Also, it lets you upload copies of receipts to this to the prepaid card page. It runs a report at the end of the month of like different spending categories. It allows you to monitor the spending if you want to help your family member learn, and you can set transaction limits. Like, I don't want any transactions beyond $25 or beyond $100 or whatever, just so that, especially if they're younger and they're learning how to make choices about what they're spending things on. If you lose the card or they lose the card, you can log in online, turn the card off, and then turn it back on again if you find it, or request another one. So lots of other features to the prepaid card as well, but that's one of the ways you can get the money out of the ABLE account, in addition to transferring it back into your linked bank account. The other thing I want to mention, and now we're talking about the features for an Maryland ABLE account, is we do have a gifting page, which I love the gifting page. It comes with every ABLE account. You choose to activate it if you want. You don't have to activate it, but this makes it really easy and really convenient for family and friends to be able to support your family member in their savings goals. I gave you the example of Lily's dream vacation to Disney. So for the last several years, on her birthday, I don't want any more video games. I don't want any more Barbie dolls. I want to go to Disney. She sent them a link to her gifting page. You can do it by text or email or messenger, that person receives the link and it just makes it so easy for them. What amount do you want to contribute to Lily's account? How do you want to do it, through your credit card or through your checking account number? You hit send, the money goes directly into the ABLE account and it's there for her or for your family member. Excuse me. And I will tell you that over the last 5 years that we've had the gifting page launched, people have received over $1.5 million in gifts, because it's very easy. I've seen it used for things like really happy, joyous things like Lily's trip to Disney, but I've also seen it where families have been in situations with extreme medical expenses due to hospitalizations. And people are always saying, what can I do? What can I do to help you? You've been in the hospital for 2 months or 2 weeks or whatever. How can we help? Well, people want to help with, things. They can make a contribution to the ABLE prepaid through the gifting page. And then those funds can be used to, help with hospital expenses, or however, any other way that it could support your family member in their health and their independence or quality of life. So it makes it really easy. Any questions about the prepaid card or the gifting page? Okay. All right. So let's take a real quick look at the Maryland tax incentives. So anyone that contributes to an ABLE account through the gifting page or any way at all can access the Maryland state income deduction. Of course, it doesn't apply if someone lives out of state because they don't pay Maryland taxes, but anyone here can use those contributions and take an income deduction up to $2,500, $5,000 for couples that are married and filing joint. So to me, this was one of the light bulbs that went on for me when I was considering opening an ABLE account. I thought, I really don't have a whole lot of extra money to be putting into savings for my daughter right now, because she had such an extraordinary medical history. We just weren't in the position to really be putting a lot of extra in. And then I thought, well, gosh, her dad and I are paying for everything anyway, all her medical expenses, her summer camps, her clothes, her everything, school supplies. We may as well go ahead and just make a contribution every month, put some money into the ABLE account, and then turn around and use those contributions that we've made and pay for those expenses. And we're able to take advantage of that income deduction on our Maryland taxes. Any questions about that?
Well, there's a very specific question in the chat. Let's save this one, I think, till the end.
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay.
So let's take a real quick look at the account fees. In order to maintain the ABLE account, there is a $35 annual maintenance fee. This is a prorated amount. So folks who opened an ABLE account yesterday will not be paying that for this year because they didn't have the account January through November. It is also assessed quarterly at $8.75. That's how that works. And again, if you're choosing any of the investment options, there will be an investment option. There will be an investment asset-based fee when you make that investment as well. You want to check the program disclosure book for that, because it'll tell you the exact amount for each portfolio that you would be interested in using. Okay. And then for folks who are interested in enrolling in a Maryland ABLE account, we recommend that you visit our website by actually typing in the URL for marylandable.org, and that'll take you directly to our website. Sometimes if you just Google Maryland ABLE, what will pop up is another ABLE program that's out of state. And we want you to know that there's 47 ABLE programs nationwide that are, most of them are open for national enrollment. And we would love for you to be with Maryland, but most importantly, we want you to pick a program that best fits you. I just recommend typing in our account URL directly, because some folks have gone and Googled Maryland ABLE and come up with another program name. It doesn't have their state in it. And they open the account and then they get upset at tax time because they're not with Maryland ABLE. So you want to be careful and make sure you're at the correct website. once you're there, we've got that program disclosure book that I've talked about for checking out anything you need, any answers you need about the program itself. We have a frequently asked questions section, which is super helpful, and all the forms that I've talked about tonight. Okay. One of the forms that I didn't mention, but let's just say, okay, I have a 4-year-old child that has that I want to open an ABLE account for. They don't receive, this person's not receiving SSI. Do I need to do anything? Well, you're going to self-attest that they have a disability. And then the next time you go to their pediatrician, you just download this form that's on our website called the Disability Certification Form. And they're going to check off the disability and sign their name. And that's all the certification you'll need. You don't have to submit it to Maryland ABLE, but in the event that you would ever be audited by the IRS and you're not receiving SSI, you could just provide that documentation. Let's see. Another thing I want to just check in is once you are at the point where you're considering opening an ABLE account, when you sit down to do it, it takes about 15 minutes to open up the account if you're opening it for someone under the age of 18, and it takes about 20-25 minutes to open an ABLE account for someone over the age of 18, just because you have to go through that additional step of uploading that consent document, whether it be a guardianship paper or a power of attorney or that limited power of attorney. It just takes a little bit longer. So when you're ready to do that, have all that paperwork with you. Again, if you're a parent for someone under the age of 18, you don't need that because they can't have an account of their own without having an adult. The other thing you want to have ready is social security number for the person, as well as the person serving as authorized legal representative, and that information for that bank account that you want to link, your bank routing number and the account number. Once you have the account established, we have a customer support team available Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. until 8 p.m. for any technical requests. In the interest of time, I'm not going to go over all of these bullet points, but this is just a summary of the numbers that we've talked about. I want to make sure we have time for questions. And I'm going to leave my contact information up here. I don't have my personal email on here, but I will be sending an email to Joy with some follow-up information for you guys, which will give you my contact information if you have any questions that you want to reach out to me individually about. I'm happy to help out in any way that I can. Do recommend that you visit our website and sign up for our newsletter. I only send out 4 a year, so I'm not going to spam you to pieces. You'll get 4 newsletters a year, but I'll keep you updated on what's going on with Maryland ABLE. And I think that's all. Oh, the one thing I do want to mention is there's a couple of resources that I'm going to be putting in my follow-up email to Joy. And one of them is related to special needs trust and ABLE accounts and how they work together as collaborative tools. And that's a great website. It's at www.specialneedsanswers.com. They do a good job explaining the differences between ABLE accounts and special needs trust and how they're used. I'm also recommending for anybody that wants to learn more about ABLE accounts, the DD Council created this wonderful Maryland ABLE Users Guide, and it's available on their website. I'm going to send you a link to that, but I love it because it's broken down into these really easily digestible chunks. So I got a couple resources coming your way, but I'm going to stick around for questions. And most importantly, I want to thank you guys for hanging in there with me tonight. And Joy, I'm going to turn it over to you for individual questions.
There's one very specific one in the chat, so I'm just wondering if anyone has any more general questions. And 2 things that I just put in the chat is that we will be having a second meeting with Kelly in January, and at that meeting she will really walk through how you create a Maryland ABLE account. So just so you know that's coming. And I also put our program evaluation form in there, but I will be sending a follow-up email, and I'll put the program evaluation link in there. and as well as whatever information Kelly sends me following this presentation. So, Maureen, I know it's you that has a very specific question. So I just wondered if anyone else has more of a general question that they would like to ask, either in the chat, or you can, unmute yourselves and ask a question. Okay, well, it looks like not. So Maureen, hang on. I want to thank everybody for coming, and most importantly, I want to thank Kelly for being here and sharing so much information with us tonight. I have to say, this is not the most exciting topic, but you had such a nice way of presenting it that honestly, it was so interesting.
Thank you.
So I'm just, I know you were really excited to be here and we were happy to have you, but I think that everybody that was here is probably so happy they were, because we all learned so much from you. And it's just wonderful to know that this program exists. And I hope that people that are joining us tonight are able to take advantage of it. Yeah, you're getting lots of thank yous here in the chat.
Thank you. I did see the one question about if I put money into the ABLE account, how long does it have to be there before you can withdraw it? The processing time to make that contribution isn't instantaneous. When you link your checking account or your savings account to an ABLE account, it doesn't appear like that second. So give it time for that deposit to clear, or that contribution to clear, and you can turn around and take it out the next day if you needed the money. So yeah, that was a good question as well. I will be back in January, and if those of you are wondering, oh, like how much is involved, I'm going to walk you through the enrollment screens, and you'll see how very easy it is. It'll prompt you through a series of questions, but there's nothing like looking at the cliff notes, right, to know how it's going to, the type of questions it's going to ask.
All right, and Maureen, do you want me to read your question, or someone asked, for food expenses, does the food have to be related to the disability?
Not specifically related to the disability, because you can't be healthy without eating food. So all food contributes to health. So, some people will get very specific and say, well, like what if they want to buy like 1 million candy bars or whatever? That might be hard to justify that, but to buy some candy bars, yes. But if all you ever did was buy Milky Ways every day and night, that might be hard to justify.
All right. Maureen, do you want to just unmute yourself and ask your
Sure.
question? Okay.
Yeah. My question was for about over 1.5 years. Well, my brother had some strokes 2 summers ago, which put him in a Montgomery Village Healthcare, into a rehab. But he's been fine since then. He got therapy and everything, and he uses a walker. But I've been working since before that, because that was my plan that summer, to make sure that I get Tommy. He was living with me, but I teach special ed at a school, and I'm not here, all the time for meals or to get him places, or if something were to happen to me. I started to get the ball rolling for getting him into a group home with ARC of Montgomery County. That's where our older brother was in the group home. He passed away in 2010, but from 2000 to 2010, our older brother was in a group home with ARC. But George didn't have the government job like the Tommy had. So he got all of the state funding, with SSI and Medicare and all that, Medicaid, whatever. But Tommy was hired from his high school, Rock Terrace Special Ed, into a handicap program, job coaching in the mailroom, first at the Bureau of Standards or NIST, and then transferred to Health and Human Services. Well, he ended up, proving himself and doing the daily mail runs, and he worked there for 30.
Maureen, we lost you.
Maureen, we cannot, I bet you can't hear us.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Now we can.
So we left off at, he was working for 39 years and.
Yeah. So he has a pension from Health and Human Services, from delivering mail.
It's gone again. We lost audio.
We can't hear you.
Oh, we went out again.
1968. I mean, it is so many hoops I've had to jump through and so much red tape. I'm going to need a group home. I'm telling you, it's like, and then I had to prove to Medicaid with stacks and stacks of financial, income taxes, bank statements, everything they asked for. So he was approved for Medicaid, say last January. He was approved for DDA, say in March or April. I don't know. It took forever. I was uploading psychologicals to 5 supervisors. They were saying they denied him. I said, did you use the psychological? No one used it because see, with COVID, everybody was home. I mean, it's been unreal. I have bins and bins of paperwork, notebooks, every break I would ever get, every afternoon calling everybody, what's the latest? Did you get this? Did you get that? So now he's finally been approved. He's crisis resolution. ARC is holding a room for him. And it's so bizarre. It's in the same house that our other brother was in. It'll be that our George died in October of 2010, but Tommy will be in a different room, but it's the same house manager. Fred is there. I mean, it's kind of cool in a way, but anyway, we're at the very last step where the application, I took it over in end of September. I drove it over to Beatrice Loving Heart with the caseworker with stacks of documentation, just like I did. It's the exact same application as the Medicaid application, only instead of checking the box long-term care, you check the box for community waiver. But otherwise, they asked for everything the same. So I copied everything the same that they needed, only I updated the income tax and the statements because 8 months or so had gone by. Well, anyway, now that was denied because they said his gross amount is maybe $400 over the Maryland maximum amount of $2,583. But he never sees that gross amount. It goes to taxes and it goes to Care First Blue Choice, which you are allowed to have that secondary.
Mhm.
So then they thought maybe an ABLE account. They told me at ARC, maybe that would be able to help. So anyway, I have people on it and today I took off and I was faxing more things, to get help, this is the last step. We're holding the room for him and everything. We thought he was going to move October 1st. No. Then we thought November 15th and now this. And I'm like, really, I'm exhausted. I'm at the end. But I'm not going to stop fighting because I think they think most people will just give up and stop fighting. And he needs this. If I die tomorrow, I have to make sure he's taken care of. The nursing home is not the right setting for him. He doesn't socialize with anyone. There's, very limited people for him to talk to there. And George was happy. My other brother, George, he got a fiance and everything, Yolanda, who's still in ARC, and he bought her a ring and everything. And it was the best 10 years of my other brother's life. So I just wondered if that difference of that gross, the gross that he never sees, the difference between the Maryland maximum allowable amount to be approved for the community pathways, community home or community-based, residential living, if that difference could go into an ABLE account to help him qualify.
So Maureen, at one point we lost audio on you for a certain portion. So with the monthly amount that's coming in, are you talking about a monthly income that's coming in?
Yeah, it's his government pension.
It's the government pension. Okay. So the thing with ABLE accounts is they're an asset protection account, but it doesn't do anything about earnings limits, an earning limit. So when people say, oh, I lost my SSI or I lost my Medicaid or whatever, it's because there's two things involved. There's the assets. You can't have more than $2,000, but then there's an earnings threshold. And it sounds like what your brother is experiencing is that he's exceeding that earnings threshold. Like $400 a month. Is that what you're saying?
I think so. Yeah.
So money that's in an ABLE account is an asset. It's money that he has, that he would be able to have in his name, but it doesn't, because you have an ABLE account, it doesn't say, oh, you're allowed to go beyond your earnings threshold. So that's still a challenge for him because he's exceeding that income threshold. That's what it sounds like to me. And I'm not a benefit specialist, so I don't, I can't speak to the way community services waiver and all that kind of stuff. But it sounds like to me, from what I understand, is that he's exceeding his income threshold, that his assets aren't the problem. It's his income.
Right. And I mean, it's almost been a problem. And here they came, job coaches, to his high school, and he started working there before he even graduated from Rock Terrace, and they were training him. He was like 17, or he might have been almost just 18 when he started. He was still going to school because he started May 3rd and he didn't graduate till June 10th from high school, from get the certificate of promotion from Rock Terrace.
Yeah.
And then I don't know how many years he had the job coaches, but they were always there. I don't know, he eventually, that many years, he eventually learned the building, knew the people in the building, and, he was able to do the job. But one person at DDA said, well, he sounds like a regular person. He, not with a disability, if he was able to hold a job for 39 years. I feel like you're almost, here they trained him and it was a handicap program, yet now they're like sort of damning him for being successful.
Right.
It's been tough.
Yeah. It sounds very tough. You're in that in between zone where, it was a blessing and a wonderful thing that he had this job opportunity and he was successful at it. And now that he's been successful at it, it's yielded this pension, which sounds like it's preventing him from getting some of these waivers because of his income threshold, the income threshold.
Yeah, and I don't think he can be accepted into the group home without this approval. Yeah, I was going to say something else.
Yes, that is a very tough situation.
Yeah, I emailed months ago Governor Hogan's office, and someone got back with me, and at DDA, and put me in touch with people. I've called Peter Franchow's office, and today, they sent me information and contacts. So I faxed things and emailed things to those people to see if they can be of any help. But I'm almost 70. I'm exhausted myself.
Yeah.
That I can't really be taking care of a 73-year-old brother who's, he's had broken his hip, broken, Jones fracture in his foot, weight bearing for months, just like surgeries. It's too much. I can't do it. He's not safe at the house. I had to prove that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's rough. I just saw somebody coming in it's from the chat, just from someone saying, hang in there, you've been through so much, but your brother is so blessed to have someone that loves him so much, and you're doing a great job. But I know, you're weary from the fight, because it is a constant fight to get him what it is that he needs. And I wish I could say that, hey, if he had an ABLE account, they wouldn't count his income. He wouldn't have to worry about the income threshold. But that's not,
I'm sorry.
That's not true.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you for that, the comment that someone sent. I appreciate that. But the sound cut out a minute ago, right after you read the comment, Kelly.
Oh, yeah.
So
okay. Yeah. So I just, I wish I could, I know you're weary from the struggle and from all of this. I wish I could say that if you had an ABLE account, that those income thresholds no longer counted, but unfortunately it doesn't do anything about the income threshold. I don't know if Joy or Bonnie or anyone has any other resources as far as, with benefits counselors to figure out, the thing is, it's a pension, it's a fixed amount.
yeah, and that's the gross amount that's over. His net amount is not over. So he never sees the gross.
Right.
But I know with Medicaid, when they sent me what you have to pay the nursing home, like here's how much he gets, here's what you should pay the nursing home. Well, they want us to pay the gross amount to the nursing home. We can't. We don't see that amount.
You don't see
And
it.
so, we owe some, we're paying every month exactly the amount he gets. I turn around and pay that exact amount. But they base everything. I think that happens with a lot of things. They base it on the gross amount that you never see. So I don't know. We'll have to see. Okay, well, you've answered a lot of my questions tonight. I appreciate it.
That's so frustrating. I wish you are definitely in a very unique situation with this.
Yeah. And then like say he'll get a cost of living raise or whatever might come in January. Every time that comes, the how it happens to everybody, then his health insurance goes up. So you don't really make any more money because the other amount more is taken out. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, well, hopefully the emails and faxes that I sent today that people are working on it for me, maybe they'll be able to come up with something that where he'll qualify. I'm hoping.
I do hope so.
because I know he would rather be home, but I'm not here. He understands from talking to cousins and me and everybody that he's not safe here. You know, I'm not his wife. I'm not his mother. I have a job. If he falls, he can't get up by himself. It's just stuff like that. He needs more safety, you know, and just
Yeah.
everything. So he understands now and he's looking forward to going into the group home. We went and checked out the house. They're holding the room for him since October.
Yeah.
So I know it's a little stressful.
He's lucky he has you as an advocate, Maureen.
Yeah,
You,
he is.
you sound like you're, you know, doing an amazing job exploring every alternative,
Yeah,
for him.
thanks.
So, yeah, I think, it's almost 9 o'clock, so I want to let Kelly have the rest of her night. But Kelly, I want to thank you. This was
Thank you.
it was a really good presentation. And whatever you send me, I'll send out to everybody who was registered. And for the people who are still here, and you know, there will be part 2 coming on. So, you know, if this is something you're interested in, definitely come back next month God, January's next month. Yes, come back and Kelly will walk us through how to, you know, register for an
You'll see how
account.
easy
So
it's gonna be. So one time I was answering questions at one of these events and somebody said, how long is it gonna take me? I don't have the time to do it. And one of the participants raised their hand and said, well, while she was answering questions, I went online and I set it up. I'm done. So,
that
it's
quick.
pretty
Awesome.
easy.
All right. Well, Kelly, this was wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And hopefully we'll see everybody back here in January.
Thanks, everyone. Stay safe and healthy.
Thank you. Yes. Healthy, happy holidays to everybody.
Holidays.
All right.
Thank you. Same
Good
to you.
night.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Good night.
Bye.
Bye. Kelly, I have one quick question for you. Can the slideshow, hang on.
Yes, I'm gonna
Um,
send that with the email, so it'll have, the slide deck will be in there.